We've been going. We've been going so good. We're live by the way on Facebook right now. There's it. Yeah, last week they got to see me. I think I was checking my teeth and fixing my hair. Yeah, they,
It's time now for the Natchez Renewal show with the Honorable Mayor Mr. Dan Gibson, and he has a special guest. I'm going to let him introduce as they talk about what's going on here in the city of Natchez. Good evening, Mayor.
hey, hello, Calvin. Good evening to you.
Hello, Calvin.
Good evening. Hello.
And yes, Calvin, and good evening, Facebook. We're on Facebook Live here. This is our Natchez Renewal Radio. And coming up on, wow, we've been doing this program a year now. Actually, longer than that if you count the campaign. But I'm here with one of my dearest friends. We really didn't even know each other until we ran for office at the same time. And I think we have absolutely become the best of friends over the course of the year. Everyone knows her as Alderwoman, Ward 1, Valencia Hall. And I call her Wonder Woman because she is a Wonder Woman and wonderful to work with. Alderwoman Hall, how are you this evening?
Doing well, thank you.
Great. I want to just say we've had quite a day. We had a marathon meeting.
6 hours.
Was it? Oh my goodness. We started our meeting at 9:30 with a finance committee because we're already working on our budget for the coming year that starts October 1. And then we went right into our board meeting at 11. And then we didn't get out of there until a while later. Someone said, did you even eat lunch? And this is just most days. And it wasn't until they asked me that I realized I hadn't eaten lunch and I hadn't had time to even get hungry. We've been busy.
We've been busy. Much is getting done.
Alderwoman, we haven't pre-rehearsed this at all. And I've got a few things I want to talk about from the meeting that I'm pretty excited about. But I want to first ask you, what's your takeaway from the meeting today? What's on your mind?
I think when we really, truly speak about unity, we have to leave racial disparity or racial disharmony out of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Because in order for us to become a unified Natchez, that includes every citizen in the municipality of Natchez and Adams County. And in order for us to do that, we have to respect the dignity and integrity of each and every person in this community. But when we continue to make every issue a racial issue, that's a disservice to the integrity of this city government.
Yes, it is. It is. It's important that we treat, like you said, each other with respect. We had an issue that came before the board today that, dealt with a property. And I believe we talked about this last week on the program. And it was going to impose something on the neighborhood that 100% of the neighborhood was against. And yes, there were some harmful things said. But at the end of the day, I'm very proud that we as a board stood up for those individuals in their neighborhood. I said, as mayor, it's my job to listen to everyone and to realize that if someone in their neighborhood is opposed to something, we have to listen to them, whether it's on, I think I said this last week, whether it's on Oak Street or Daisy Street, Main Street or MLK. Because if we make an exception in one area and in a dictatorial way push something down their throats, then we're setting up precedent to do that all over the city. Now, I want to say I'm very proud of you. Alderwoman, you are Alderwoman Ward 1, and you had individuals from other wards trying to impose their will on a neighborhood in your ward.
Correct.
But you stood up for your voters, your constituents.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me about
respect what the people honor that as long as office. And I will not compromise integrity nor the integrity of the vote to appease a few disgruntled people.
I want to say, having served with you this past year, I've grown in such great respect for you because I've noticed that you are not a respecter of persons. Rather, you treat every situation with clarity, with fairness, and you really do listen to everyone involved. And so, for instance, today you made a stand for that neighborhood that 100%, and this was not just white residents, it was other races, 100% against something, and you stood for them. But at the same time, you've been standing for those, I'll give you an example, Marblestone.
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Well, finally, we're coming to completion, hopefully by October 15th. And if not, then we'll face that issue in a different manner if it's not completed by October 15th, 2021. We have been, or the residents of Marblestone have been searching for drainage, curbs, etc. for the last 24 years. And finally, last summer, it should have begun in to get started. People do not need to wait any longer for drainage in this neighborhood. So I have been going out there frequently for over a year, or that really that neighborhood needed to be done, and maintaining my schedule to make sure that it is completed.
And it's getting completed.
It's getting
And I'm
completed.
so excited. I can't wait to be there with you and all of those residents as we celebrate the completion of that project this fall. They've been waiting a long
A
time.
long time.
You know, another thing you and I have worked together on, we both came into office very concerned about our parks and the deplorable condition of our parks. The fact that over the past many years, nothing's been done. And so as soon as you became alderwoman and I became mayor, we became, a partnership, a team in this. We were determined we're going to make a difference with these parks. Well, we didn't have the money at the moment. We were still in COVID and everything was down, but things are looking up, things are getting better. And you are chairing our recreation committee and the Recreation Renewal Task Force. And so today we had something really exciting. We finally passed the final resolution that will advertise the bonds, $2 million.
Absolutely. And that's a team effort. We can't do anything without communication and cooperation among the 6 board members and the mayor.
That's right.
We have to work as a team. And that includes working with the mayor. We cannot be in opposition of the mayor.
I
We
know
have to work in
you
conjunction with the mayor.
You reach out to me literally every day and many nights. I think sometimes you're the first person I hear from in the morning and the last person I hear from at night. You work harder than I've ever seen anybody work as what's supposed to be a part-time position.
Well, actually, when I was asked to run for this position, and I was asked to run 4 years ago, and at that time, I told the person who asked that it was not the right time. But in 4 years, I will run, and I kept my word. But I consider this position to be a full-time position. I don't consider it to be a part-time position.
That's great.
Because we're working for the betterment of this community, for the betterment, for the health and wellness of the people of this community.
No wonder I see you so much, and I appreciate that commitment. And so I have here the schedule. This is a schedule. We've had those in meetings trying to say, oh, y'all haven't given any details. This is actually a document we've been working with now for 2 or 3 months. And it's very clear. It's on our website, on our Facebook page. And listeners of WTYJ can actually go to the website, which is natchez.ms.us, and they will find a link to this. It's a list of projects all over the city and it very clearly dictates what is being done at every park, all 6 parks.
All 6 parks.
What are some of the highlights? You know, we did the final resolution today, and the money will be there in August. What are some of the highlights of this list in your
I
opinion?
think the biggest highlight for me are the Americans, the Americans
Disabilities Act.
Act,
Yeah.
that all children have the right for an opportunity for recreation and wellness.
Yeah.
And our parks did not provide that access to those children with disabilities. These recreation park equipment will have these children will have access to equipment that is geared towards students with disabilities. We will have 2 what we call forts, 2 major forts. They are 2 level by level. The bottom level and the top level will have the same equipment.
Wonderful.
And on the bottom level, it is geared towards students with disabilities, so they will have the same access.
Isn't that great?
We also have
and those major forts,
yes,
very large structures. One will be at Duncan Park, and one will be at North Natchez
Park.
That's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Those are the 2 largest parks, so they
Yeah.
will go in those facilities. And also, we will have park benches that are wheelchair accessible as well. So when I vow to serve all people of Natchez, that includes all people.
That's wonderful.
It's inclusive.
It really is. And you know what I'm excited about today also, we chose architects today and are entering contracts with an architect for the golf clubhouse project and an architect for the North Natchez Youth Center project.
That's correct.
And we did this simultaneously because, and I'm just going to say it, people love to play games and say, "Oh, what you going to do first?" They're just trying to divide, you know. And I don't play those games.
I don't play games.
We're actually doing these projects simultaneously, and I'm excited that we got that done today. Those architects now, as they are designing and moving to the next step in the process, will then guide us in hiring the contractor and also assisting in eventually getting the subcontractors that will be needed. And I want to say this, in the spirit of unity, we made the statement today. We're going to be looking at the best qualified contractors. But at the same time, we know that in the past, there are some very reputable contractors who are minority firms that could have done a very good job and weren't approached.
That's correct.
And we're going to make sure that everyone gets included.
Absolutely.
We are.
I'm a firm believer in, regardless of what your race, ethnicity, age, gender, the most qualified person for a position is who should be hired.
That's it. I totally agree. And I believe we're having a good track record of that so far in our year in office. Something else that I'm excited about that we did today is we had a very important presentation made to the city by Shirley Brown, who is with the Tobacco Free Initiative. And this is a movement that has spread all across Mississippi to create tobacco-free communities. Doesn't mean we ban smoking and tobacco, but it just means that we take measures to make sure that restaurants, public places are tobacco-free. And it was really moving to see 2 children at our meeting today giving their own personal testimonies of having to deal with secondhand smoke. A model ordinance is now being crafted. And if we can get this passed very soon, it will be very important as we move forward with recreation, because recreation grants are available, but more and more the requirement is that the community be a smoke-free community. So we made that action today, and I think that was a really good step forward. But you said something is not just getting grant money, and it's not doing something that looks good politically, but you said it. What's the most important thing about it?
Wellness and health for the citizens of this community.
Yeah.
I personally have asthma, so I know what secondhand smoke does for me. And there are people with heart disease and other lung diseases that the secondhand smoke, third-hand smoke can be detrimental to those individuals.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the wellness and the health of
That's right.
individuals of this community.
We do. And
indeed, it will very well assist us with getting grants
yes.
for recreation and other programs that we're doing as well to have a smoke-free environment.
And it will raise awareness
Raise
of the need of
awareness.
this, because we are in the final, as I said in the meeting today, we're in the final stages of a health needs assessment of our
That's
city
correct.
and county. This is as we build our strategy for medical economic development, Natchez. What has come out is that we have a disproportionate share of our population experiencing cancer and also high blood pressure and heart disease. And all of that is attributable to smoking
Absolutely.
and tobacco. And in addition to that, we have a growing trend and a problem with young people developing heart disease because of vaping.
Absolutely.
Because it's so dangerous to the heart. So this helps to build that awareness, and we will grow not only in our knowledge here, but also in exposure statewide as we join the ranks of other very progressive communities across Mississippi.
Not only does tobacco provide or contribute to lung cancer, but also oral cancer.
Yes.
Chewing tobacco or using snuff, a lot of oral cancers are attributed to those.
And you have a background as a healthcare professional, and I bet you've seen that firsthand, and it's really, really sad to see it.
But I also understand that nicotine is highly addictive, so we have to look at that aspect of it as well.
That's right. That's right. Another important thing that happened today, and I just want to speak to this, we won't get into any real details because, as was said today, there is litigation now ongoing regarding the important raid that was conducted a month ago. And that raid was a joint effort between the police department and the sheriff's office. And we were able to bust an operation at a convenience store on Aldrich Street, right off of North MLK, that had been going on under our noses for a number of years. Well, we caught them red-handed. And I'm not saying anything that hasn't been in the newspaper. There's public record. Well, we caught them red-handed selling marijuana right over the counter, right across from a school and right down from churches where we have businesses, where we have a number of senior citizens living and children. And unbeknownst to us, and yes, all of this legal action was taking place. And a week ago Friday, that business was allowed to reopen. And so it was very important, I think, today, and I was so grateful to you, Alderwoman Hall, for standing with me and others as we passed a motion authorizing our police chief and our sheriff to work with our city attorney in going to the DA to pursue a hearing before a judge that would result in the closure, we hope, the closure of this business due to it being a public nuisance. We can't really discuss any more, but we can make some general comments. I think it's important that we attack crime wherever it exists in our community, especially when it affects our children.
Oh, absolutely. We have to take on crime. And I think our present police chief, Chief Daughtry, has taken a proactive stance in hitting crime and also solving unsolved murder cases. So I'm very proud of the efforts of our men and women of the Natchez Police Department in doing this. So we do have to tackle crime, and I'm for it. Whatever we have to do, we will tackle crime.
Alderwoman Hall, it was just a year ago we became mayor, alderwoman, and we stated then that we had to solve these crimes. And then when Chief Daughtry was hired in December, we made a statement then, and we made it very clear to him that we wanted solving crimes to be his number one priority. And he's been doing that.
He's been doing that.
And what I'm very excited about is the fact that just last week he solved yet another unsolved murder. He's already been solving these. And this one was a high profile one that involved the case of Don Owens. Don, young man, a father, a son, a friend, grandson. He lost his life on December 17th, 2018. And this had gone unsolved until last week. And I was so grateful when Chief Daughtry called me and said we finally got a break. And we had the press conference. And then through the hard work over the weekend, one suspect was arrested last week. The other, enough pressure applied, he turned himself in Monday morning. And so we do applaud our men and women in uniform and all of the agencies
Absolutely.
that have worked with our police and Chief Daughtry in making this happen. And we send our heartfelt best wishes to the Owens family.
Absolutely. I offer my prayers, and I've spoken personally with Mrs. Owens several months ago, and I expressed that my family also went through a tragedy like this in 2012 when my nephew was killed by gunfire, and that it's devastating to the parents of a child when he or she is killed in this fashion. So I know the grief that she's going under. I don't know what her feelings are, but I do know the experience that she's going through.
Yes.
So we had that conversation about that. So I'm very pleased with the progress of the alleged murderers of her son, and now it's up to our judicial system to do its part
That's
to bring
right.
justice.
And we need to now just really pray that our judicial system really steps it up, because it's important not only for closure and for peace of this family, but safety in our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If anyone does the crime, they need to do the time. And you know, you and I share this, and that our families have both been touched by violence. Praise God, my father's life was spared, but when I was in high school, during a mugging attempt, my father was shot twice, once in the hand, once in the shoulder, and it was by the grace of God that, you know, he survived that. He actually went to his grave at the age of 90 with a bullet still embedded in his shoulder. And you know, to think of how close that was. And
my niece was also shot about 5 years ago when she was pregnant with her youngest child, and her boyfriend was killed. So we've had it, you know, several years apart.
No family should have to go through that. No. And no family should have to deal with the fact that because of a judicial system or because of a backlog at the crime lab, that they might go to Walmart and find themselves in line with someone they know very possibly killed their loved one.
And I remember, Mr. Mayor, several meetings ago, I did bring up the fact that we cannot remain silent on the violent crimes that are occurring in this community.
That's right.
And it's important, I think, to state that every crime within the last 10, 12 years has been black on black shooting. Not one white person has shot or killed a black. Not one black has shot or killed a white person. This
With
is
the
black
exception,
on black.
We did have an incident in the Walmart parking lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a week ago.
That's correct.
But that is an exception.
That's an exception. But and if a black person had killed a white person or a white person had killed a black person, there would have been protests throughout this community.
Yes.
But we have not had one protest on black killing or shooting.
And you know,
that's
sad. Because if all lives matter and if black lives matter, then Don Owens' life should matter.
Absolutely.
And Kendrick Owens' life should matter. And also so many others. I won't even name all the names. Right. So I am so glad to see our police stepping it up and doing what it takes to solve crime and to build a safer community.
And for the fact that he and Sheriff Patton have a wonderful working relationship.
Yes.
As does our police chief, fire chief, and sheriff.
That's
the
right.
Three different entities.
And then working with state agencies.
Absolutely.
MBI, Mississippi Bureau, MBN, Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, and Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, MBI, and then we federal FBI, U.S. Marshals, Highway Patrol, and even Concordia Sheriff and Vidalia Police.
Yes.
and the surrounding communities,
Sure.
working through now Crime Stoppers, getting that going again, and working with so many police chiefs and sheriffs all within our region.
Right.
It's a
So
very
when
good
we
thing.
speak about unity, we have to speak about unity for all people.
We do. We do. And also, when we're talking about unity, let's not use it in convenient terms. What's good for our agenda?
Exactly.
What's good for someone that we have a personal relationship with, and we want them to get the contract because that's our friend.
Our friend.
That time is over. In fact, a longtime personal friend of mine called me when the General Hospital deal had fallen through in November.
Yes.
When we nullified that RFP, called me and said, I want to put a housing project there. Done them all over the state, very successful. I've known him a long time, very affluent in political circles. And I told my friend, I'm not going to name his name if he's listening, he knows who he is. But I told him, no, that neighborhood's against it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're friends, but that is not something we can entertain.
And the General Hospital is surplus property. And as recent as Mayor Gonell's term, there was on the books that adjacent property owners should have first priority to buy property adjacent to their own personal
That's
property.
right. That's right.
And this is surplus property that will be back on the tax rolls.
And I'm grateful someone wants to buy it and clean it up. If you've been by General Hospital lately, it's atrocious.
Every day.
And why would we want that to continue? I want to share just a couple positive things that happened in our meeting today. We look all over the community, and it's important to point out, and I'm very excited we're supporting this. The city can support nonprofits and events, and the city is a sponsor again of the Minorville Jubilee, and we voted on that today. And that is an event. Alderwoman Irving explained to me today this is one of the longest running events in our region, and it has done so much to lift up that community and draw attention. And so we are excited that the city is a sponsor now, co-sponsor of the Minorville Jubilee, which will be held July 31st. I want to say something else too. Just last year, I started becoming friends with a lady in our community named Dorothy Sanders, who almost single-handedly keeps a very historic cemetery going here, Watkins Street Cemetery. And we've been out there a number of times, and it is in a poor state of repair. And it also needs to be said, during the ice storm, it suffered a good bit of damage. And this is sad because of the history that's there.
Absolutely.
3 different mass grave sites related to the Rhythm nightclub disaster. Prominent individuals in the African American community, including veterans and a Purple Heart recipient.
Yes.
And so I was so pleased today when our city, being that this is a nonprofit struggling to maintain a historic cemetery, that our city stepped up to assist them today and appropriated over $16,000. Part of that to go to regular maintenance, and then more than half of that to go toward repairing the damage, taking down trees, and cleaning up what was wrought upon that cemetery during the ice storm.
Absolutely. That is a historic place, and we do need to honor the lives of those who did die in that fire. I think about 209 people.
Including,
and my maternal grandmother died, Marie Lee Hall.
Yeah.
But I guess by the grace of God, she's buried in the city cemetery.
Yes, yes. And the city owns the city cemetery, has for many years, coming up on its bicentennial, 200 years next year. Yet the city has never owned the Watkins Street Cemetery. It has been a private cemetery, but it has severe issues. Being a major historic site, it is my hope next year we can find the means and the way legally for the city to step in and help in other needed projects. Drainage is a significant challenge.
Is a challenge there.
Erosion and all. So that was something very positive. And then, I will say this too. We are blessed to have dedicated individuals working for the city. And it's exciting that here a year ago, in the midst of a pandemic, a hiring freeze, spending freeze, couldn't do any recreation, couldn't even think of how we would afford a bond. Here we are a year later. We've given raises to the majority of our employees. We have done now this bond and about to renew our parks. We have bought all this new equipment, including a fleet of new police cars to include some new fire department vehicles. So it's a time to celebrate.
Time to celebrate. Now, also, we signed a lease for the restoration of the depot.
Yeah.
And we signed leases for cruise ships to come to Natchez and to raise Silver Street.
And to raise
so there have been many accomplishments in less than a year.
Yes, in fact, a record number of new jobs. A record number of new building permits, new business permits, absolutely, and real estate closings. Oh my gosh, they closed on so many houses, I lose count. So we're about to celebrate, Alderwoman. A week from Friday, it will be the 23rd of July. I will give the very first State of the City address of our administration at 5:30 at the bandstand on our historic bluff. And then at 6 o'clock, we will have a party. I'm throwing a party.
Free party.
And I'm inviting everybody to come, and it's a free party. We're going to be at the Rolling River, Reloaded there on Main Street. And the great Wazzy Ely and his band will be performing. And we're going to have just a fun time from 6 to 8:30. So I want everyone to come out to the speech, the State of the City address, celebrate with us there, our victories, and then follow us then to the Rolling River. Absolutely, for a fun party.
Yes, definitely. And it is a time to celebrate. Many people didn't give either of us a chance.
That's right.
Either of us.
No,
and
they didn't.
Look at the progress we have made.
Yes. I'm so grateful.
It takes team effort.
It does. And I'm so grateful to you.
Mr. Mayor.
And I'll say also, I'm grateful to all of our aldermen and women. We don't always get along, but it was shared today. Yeah, we all are passionate about Natchez, and we do want to work together. And I see that happening more and more. We have a lot to celebrate.
I think it's important for us to share also with the public that we are taking a different stance on dilapidated homeowners.
That's a big deal.
Dilapidated properties, and we're now going towards a civil judgment. And I think that's going to make a big difference.
And we credit you for that. You brought this solution to us, Alderwoman Hall, through your research. And so we now are in the very near future filing civil judgments against. We have identified our top 25. Once we do that, we'll go to the next. You can't, eat the apple all in one bite. You got to take it in small bites. But because we have over 250 adjudicated dilapidated properties. So we're going to pursue the civil judgments, get them cleaned up. The city gets its money back rather than having to wait on a tax sale. But speaking of tax sale, we do have another number of properties that are on the roster of having come back to the city. So we're going to now start looking at how we can sell those. And just like we're doing with Margaret Martin next to Dunleavy, just like we're doing with General Hospital next to the towers, we're going to open this up to anyone to let them step up and buy a dilapidated property adjacent to them or in their neighborhood down the street. And I believe in this next year, we're going to clean up Natchez.
I think so, absolutely. Not only crime, but our dilapidated properties.
That's right. And another big goal that we still are working on and hope to have big news soon is workforce development. A lot coming in that area. So Alderwoman Hall, I guess that sums us up. We've enjoyed it. I think Calvin stepped aside. I see Mr. Leon over there. Mr. Leon, thank you. Listeners of WTYJ, thank you. We just ask God's blessings on you. Alderwoman Hall, do you have any last words?
It's a blessing and a privilege to serve the people of Natchez and the residents of Ward 1. And I will continue to be your voice. And as always, call me. You can call me and I will return emails and phone calls.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having me as your guest.
Well, have a great night.
You too.
Good night, Natchez.
Good night.
7.7 WTYJ 440 WMIS. That's been Natchez Renewal Radio right here on WTYJ